Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed AF. And if you don't know what AF stands for, just ask someone younger than you. But of course, the radio version of the show remains intact. But we've been teasing this actually for months and months and months. An online version of the show, kind of getting back to our roots, the podcast version, where we would speak about politics and other things completely uncensored and unfettered and unleashed from the constraints of FM terrestrial radio or any kind of management oversight and so forth. So, and joining me for the first time in a very long time,
yes,
my favorite conservative, Erich Pilcher, is here. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Matt. I don't know if I'm a conservative anymore, though.
Well,
I've had a lot of people say I'm not.
mhm.
Unfortunately, I think I like the title independently conservative.
Okay. Interesting. Yes, I have a family member who has said many times that you, sir, are not a true conservative.
Yeah, that's rather unfortunate. I mean, I will say that I'm conservative leaning.
Yeah. I've been having a little bit of a crisis with that on my own because, as you know, I like to call myself an independent.
Right.
But in the voting booth on election day, I just voted right down the ballot. I just voted for all Democrats. And I don't like being tethered to a party because of all the preconceptions that come with that from other people and so forth. And I don't really like being part of a club. But at the same time, I don't think, I mean, unless there's a massive course correction in the Republican Party and unless they get the MAGA out of it, it's entirely likely that I don't vote for another Republican again in my lifetime. And the independents that do pop up usually end up being crazy anyway, like RFK or Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate, who I know the media doesn't pay much attention to anymore, but she may very well be a Russian asset. So, so I might just go back to just calling myself a Democrat. I'm registered as a Democrat. So I also, I have this struggle in terms of political identity.
I do as well. I'll say on my end, I didn't vote straight Republican.
Right.
In the state of Iowa, I voted straight Republican. I have no problem saying this, despite numerous issues with this individual. I did vote for Kamala Harris. The big thing is it was a business decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I work for a branch of the government that Donald Trump wants to privatize.
Yes.
Now, as ridiculous as that sounds, and as ridiculous as it would be if he even tried to accomplish it, he would fail miserably. It's still a fear.
Yes.
And I have to vote with my finances.
Yeah.
And benefits in my future because I have a pension, I have a 401k.
Right.
I want to be able to retire and not worry about money.
Right, of course.
And so yeah, and the Project 2025 just scares the daylights out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, I read 1984, and there's some real George Orwellian stuff in there. Yeah, and you look at so yeah, there were a lot of reasons why, but the primary one was I got to look out for my finances. On the flip side, I did not agree with her economic policy, what very little she shared, and I'm sure we will get into that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things, and I think very early, actually Tuesday night, I was watching, and I'm like, by God, he's going to win this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the writing was on the wall very early Tuesday.
I had a sinking, yeah. I had a sinking feeling pretty early.
I didn't have a sinking feeling. I was just like, I thought it was going to be closer.
Mm-hmm.
And so that night when I got off work, I did a lot of statistical digging.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone went down that rabbit hole, they should have had the same assumption that they should have had an idea of what happened Tuesday night was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, it was all right there.
I was cautiously optimistic going in. Oh, and part of what contributed to my optimism was the state of Iowa. I remember messaging you about it. That poll that did seem too good to be true, but that weird poll out of Iowa that showed her like 47, 44 or something.
I saw the poll before you messaged me.
Yeah.
And I do apologize to you. I was pretty flippant in my response to you on it. I'm like, yeah, we shall see. Because I looked at the numbers and I'm like, this does not make any form of conceivable sense in this state.
Except, refresh my memory. Tell me if I'm getting this right or not. Didn't he not do great in the primary there? Didn't Nikki Haley? I don't think she beat him. I don't think she beat him anywhere, but didn't she do respectably well?
She did enough to keep the train rolling to New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I will say at the caucus in my area, and I've went over that whole snafu. I heard from many people that in many caucuses, Trump was 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
For every 3 Donald Trump supporters, there was 1 Nikki Haley supporter.
Yeah.
I heard when you went into southern Iowa, she wasn't viable.
Okay.
So once you got into our heavy farming areas, she wasn't viable. I think the viability for her came from areas such as Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. I think that's where a good portion of her viability carried over in Iowa and kind of gave her a sense of false hope. But polling in Iowa, in my opinion, has always been vastly hard to predict what's accurate and what's not. For the simple fact that we're like a state torn. We are very much either metropolitan or farming.
Okay.
And when these companies poll, magazines and colleges and what have you, when they poll, they do not take that into account. They really randomize it. Iowa should actually be split. If you're going to poll Iowa, you should poll Iowa City, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, Waterloo, Cedar Falls. You should do all the major cities, Davenport, Bettendorf, not Council Bluffs. You should do the urban areas as their own poll and then move to the farming communities. And then you would see the great variance that happens there.
Well, in a sense, so I think you could probably say that about most states because urban centers tend to be more liberal and rural areas tend to be more conservatives. And that's why when you look at an electoral college map, it looks like, there's so much red. Of course, Trump did so well. That's also part of why there's a lot of red. But even just when a Democrat wins, it looks very red because those urban centers are so concentrated. But Here in New Hampshire, it's interesting. We like to really split things up. We just elected a new Republican governor, but our congressional delegation remains Democrats. And of course, we always, we went for Kamala Harris. We haven't gone Republican in a presidential election since 2000. We went for Bush in 2000. Since then, it's been blue ever since. I don't think they even really, I haven't heard us referred to as a swing state in a while. I don't think
we used to be.
We used to be, yeah. But I mean, at this point, I think we've pretty well assimilated into the rest of the Northeast.
Iowa, I believe, is still considered a swing state by some outlets and some government figures, but realistically, we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
We are a Republican state. And at the end of the day, and when I said that you really need to split the state, I was talking if you're polling in regards to straight Republicans, because that's where the divide comes in. The farming areas are not going to, a majority of them in Iowa are not going to go Democrat. It just isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So you can go to areas like Solon, Urbandale, Centerville, Council Bluffs, and you're going to get it's going to be Red Kingdom. That's why else Iowa's very hard to gauge, because then you get into the metropolitan areas, and the farming areas are overwhelmingly red. The metropolitan areas are split. I would say in Cedar Rapids, for every one Trump sign I saw a Harris sign.
Yeah,
it's pretty even. Yeah. And that's the same for Des Moines, on Iowa City, on down the line. Waterloo, maybe not, because they're more of an urban area. A lot, very diverse area, Waterloo is. So maybe not there, but Ames, where Iowa State University is, that's considered a farming community. Probably, I would say 70-30 Trump.
Okay.
So Iowa's very bizarre. And that's why I think a lot of importance is put not on winning Iowa, but how do you perform in Iowa?
Yeah.
Because if you can be viable in Iowa, that proves you can cater to many different people of many different backgrounds. If you're not viable in Iowa, that's why after the Iowa caucuses, I feel you see so many people drop out.
Oh, yeah.
Because I couldn't get through this cornucopia potpourri of people.
Right.
Where do I go?
Well, some candidates just skip Iowa entirely.
Yes.
But Iowa can be an important springboard. I still vividly remember in 2004 when it really looked like Howard Dean was going to win all these primaries and caucuses and become the nominee. And then all of a sudden, John Kerry, out of nowhere, captures the Iowa caucus and then goes on to win the New Hampshire primary. And then next thing you know, Dean was, I can't say long but not forgotten because of that sound that he made. But Dean was very quickly left in the dust. So Iowa can be very important that way. But it's always interesting every cycle, every 4 years, to see which candidates place a heavy bet on Iowa and which ones just say, no, we're going to focus on New Hampshire first in the nation, or whoever's first in the nation, because Biden didn't want New Hampshire to be first anymore. But anyway, yeah. So you were pretty skeptical, obviously, about that poll, and I was being cautiously optimistic. But so did you? So in on your ballot, so you voted for Kamala, but everyone else Republican. Is that correct?
Yes, everyone else Republican.
Was I know Kim Reynolds is very popular. Was she up for election?
She is. No, she will be 2026.
Okay.
And good luck.
Why?
Good luck. Good luck to anyone trying to unseat her.
Oh
Look,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I mean, you got to look at Iowa's history. We had Terry Branstad for so long,
yeah.
and then we had Chet Culver for a little bit, and um um and then yeah, then Kim Reynolds came in, and Kim Reynolds was actually lieutenant, was deputy governor to Terry Branstad.
Okay.
So you had that, and I actually think Branstad came in. Uh, he came in again a little for I think a term after Chet.
Okay.
And then Kim Reynolds came into play.
Because Branstad was very popular too, right?
Oh yeah, I mean Branstad's kid had multiple DWIs, and like his family values were called into question.
Yeah.
And that still couldn't unseat him. And I'll say, I ate lunch with Terry Branstad once, and very endearing guy. Actually, I was in college, and he gave me his card
Yeah.
and said if I ever needed anything, call him. And I was doing an article about MMA in Iowa and how they were trying to uh, deregulate it, and not the two representatives spearheading it wouldn't get back to me. So I shot in the dark, called him, and left a message. And I want to say within 2.5 days, he got back to me
Oh.
and actually remembered me from this media conference.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
And so I will always have kind of a special place for Terry Branstad for that.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah, I won't say you can argue his policies and everything, but to do that for a young man when I was a young man at a community college out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, that's something not seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So should we talk about you had messaged me and you said, and this will be, I think, an interesting thing to analyze, although depressing in some ways, but you had said that you blame Biden for this for us.
Yeah,
and I do too, fundamentally.
There's a lot of blame.
Oh, there is, yeah. A lot
go
of things,
around in this.
A lot of things went wrong here.
I think I, as succinctly as I could, said it on a Facebook status what I felt went wrong. One, Kamala Harris was not likable.
I disagree with you there, but go ahead.
I mean, YouGov, and I'm looking at it right now on 538, which is the only site I trust.
Yeah.
In regards to statistical analysis.
I was looking at 538 quite a bit leading up to the election. I know exactly what you mean. Yep.
I mean, because 538 was probably the only website that was, without showing any favoritism, saying this could happen.
Yeah.
The numbers were pretty spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, she was favorable 47%, 51% unfavorable, according to YouGov. And that was November 6th, and that was right around election time.
Mm-hmm.
Biden, according to Atlas Intel, had a 55% disapproval rating.
Yeah.
His disapproval rating went up by 13 points. If we look at the same poll, Trump's favorability was 49-50 unfavorable, but the margin of error is 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we really had a country split. Chris Christie on election night, because I watched ABC for the coverage. Chris Christie said something very intelligent. He said, 60% of Americans don't like the way the country's going. 70% of Americans, I don't know where he got the 70% from. But whatever. He said 70% of Americans do not like Donald Trump. This election came down to which side was going to pull people over.
Right.
And what happened is 70%, that 70% that disliked Trump, disliked the way the country was going more.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And there's a lot of things. I think Kamala Harris only having 107 days to run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was a compressed campaign. I actually thought that might work to her advantage in some ways.
If they would have let her hire her own staff, which they did not do.
Yeah.
She inherited Joe Biden's team.
And she didn't even get all of them, from what I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he took some of them for his transition team.
Right, right.
So she didn't even have a full staff.
Yeah.
Another thing, if I had to say, in my opinion, when the kill shot occurred on Kamala Harris, and kill shot's probably the wrong word to use, when the death blow occurred.
Well, death blow is not much better, but well, at least that doesn't sound like a gun. Okay, I get you.
When the plug was pulled.
Well, now you make it sound like we euthanized her.
You know what? When I felt she was done, then
did you miss me? Did you miss me, Eric?
Greatly. When I felt she was done.
When you felt she was done, okay.
when I was like, oh man, this person is in trouble.
Yes.
Donald Trump, and people you can't see, but I am doing air quotes, was working at McDonald's. On that very same day, Kamala Harris was on The View.
I see where you're going. Yep.
Taking some very softball answers. Yep. Taking some very softball questions.
Yeah.
She was asked one question that stood out to me.
I know where you're going. Yep.
If you could change any decision made by the Biden administration the last 4 years, what would it be?
Mm-hmm.
She paused to think about it.
I know.
And then said 2 words. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that was awful. And you know what's so maddening about that? That was, like you said, it was a softball. And any professional politician knows how to pivot. And what she should have done, in my opinion, is said something like, well, I'm not focused on revisiting or rehashing the decisions that we've made. I'm focused on taking what we've accomplished in the Biden-Harris administration and building on that and continuing to move forward, or something like that. That would have been an easy pivot. Any professional politician, a state rep in New Hampshire would be able to pull that off. But for some reason in that moment, it's like she glitched.
She thought. She paused to think, Matt.
I know. And that, that was terrible. That was a terrible moment. And what's even worse, she then circled back and tried to clean it up later. And that made it even more awkward.
The biggest, and I got to give credit here to my friend, Jordan Turchka-Cycli. He gave me this analogy and I'm running with it.
Yeah.
The biggest dog ate my homework reason I didn't want to show disrespect to Joe Biden.
Oh, no, so bad.
Kamala, that's politics.
Oh.
Hurdle the weak, trample the dead. Kamala, he's a lame duck. But you have your race to run.
But she didn't even have to do that, though. Like I said, she could have just pivoted and said, because that's what any normal politician would have done in that moment, is just pivot. Because, as you know, Eric, rule number 1 in politics, you never answer the question that was asked.
Nope.
You answer the question that you wish had been asked. If they happen to match up, that's fine.
Unless You're Donald Trump on Joe Rogan.
Well,
Then you just answer every question. And I think, and we'll get to that later, because I want to touch on that because, but no, I totally agree. She should have pivoted. The best answer would have been, whenever you look back on any term of service, you always have regrets. I regret and I apologize to the American people I did not serve to the best of my capabilities.
Oh, I don't think that would have worked.
It would have worked better than absolutely none.
Well, I agree with that. I still think, respectfully, I think my idea is a little better, but
there is still some, because I looked at it and I'm like, what a stupid response.
Yeah.
But then I thought about it more, and it's like, what an insensitive response. You have, and I get it, poor economy, good economy is always blamed on the sitting office.
Yes.
And it might not necessarily even be their fault. A little bit of Schoolhouse Rock politics for you there, for those uninitiated.
I think it's almost never their fault, in my opinion, which puts me at odds with, I think, 99.9% of Americans. But I think we're a nation of low information voters who don't understand a damn thing about the economy. But
look up tariffs, people. Understand what these are.
Yeah.
Moving on. She should have, at the very least, showed sensitivity towards the American people that can't afford food.
Yeah.
That are having to choose between medications or a square meal.
Right.
That can't afford to drive to work.
Yeah.
That can't afford to clothe their children. Yeah, that was very tone deaf and very insensitive. But if I'm going to be honest, tone deaf is the Democratic Party as a whole right now.
Right now, I would say for a long time, my biggest problem, because I lean left. I'm kind of pretty liberal in a lot of ways. So I end up voting for Democrats. And like I said, I don't know if I'll ever vote for another Republican, but the Democratic Party is horrendous at messaging, horrendous. And on the very rare occasion that somebody comes along that actually is able to communicate effectively, what happens? They end up serving 2 terms as president, whether it be Bill Clinton or Barack Obama, 2 Democrats who, wow, imagine that, actually understood how to explain things to people, how to communicate to the American people. But almost every other Democrat, it's like they can't, like this
it's condescending.
Well, the thing is, the fundamentals of this economy are actually very good. And when you look at inflation, we've done better than almost the entire rest of the world with inflation in terms of this post-pandemic hangover. And now inflation has stabilized. So, but they can't communicate any of that. They can't figure out how to communicate. I mean, my God, when we talk about immigration, and Trump wants to, I don't like the term illegal aliens. I call them undocumented immigrants, but Trump wants to deport them all. And of course, people are like, yeah, get rid of them all. And it's like, well, actually, if you were to do that, if you were to literally do that, even though it's impossible, it's not going to happen anyway. But if you were to literally do that, that would be devastating to the economy. But Democrats can't explain that to people because Democrats can't explain anything. It's so frustrating.
It's the term is thrown around a lot lately, mansplaining.
Yeah.
They mansplain to their constituents. And they talk down to them as if you should know this, but let me take time out of my day to teach you something. They cater towards their 1%. They cater towards that elite group. And that's just so horribly misguided because you sit there and you watch Kamala Harris, and I watched a couple of her rallies, actually.
Mhm.
C-SPAN did a great job of showing the rallies in their full dumpster fire glory.
I don't know. I thought some of those rallies were pretty good. I thought she ran a decent campaign overall for what she had to work with.
Did.
I think she improved. I was very skeptical in the beginning. Let me put it that way. But I think she did the best she could with the very compressed time frame that she had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that 107 days. And, a lot of me is, I don't know. I sit here and I scroll through social media and I see a lot of anger. And that happens when you lose. I'm a sports fan. When you lose, you're mad at the world. But there's this vitriol coming from the left. And I get some of it. Not every single person, and this might shock you, not every single person that voted for Donald Trump is homophobic, transphobic, xenophobic, or a misogynist.
Right.
They're just not. We have this privilege and this, I feel it's a civic duty to go vote. That's what makes us different than other countries. That's what puts us, in my opinion, a step above other countries. We have the right to say, and it takes maybe 30 minutes out of your day to go and check the box.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you vote because you like the color someone wore. You voted. You had your say. If you voted, you had your say and you lost. I get it. You have family members that are LGBTQI or a minority. There's a little bit of fear. But to attack those that just voted for their best interests, what voting really is about is wrong. And I mean, I have this issue with it. And to be fair, I had an issue when Trump supporters did it 4 years ago, saying things, that's not my president, or good work. One of the favorite ones is good work, libertards.
Yeah.
It's like, look, the only way the government does everything you don't want them to do is if we are so divided, we can't even be in the same distance with each other. That's how they have that's how they get the power to do the things that scare us. I have had conversations with friends that are Democrats over this. Once they got over their complete aghast that I voted for Kamala Harris, I explained to them why she lost. And just, again, the numbers do not lie. This was a giant stamp of disapproval on the Democratic Party as a whole.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Trump, I mean, he took all the swing states, every single one of them. But
not
turnout,
just Kamala. Oh, sorry to interrupt, Matt. Not just Kamala Harris wasn't and I really dislike the coverage on election night on that. It was Kamala underperformed here, here, and here, and here. And Kamala underperformed every area, every city in the United States that Joe Biden performed in 2020.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, dig deeper. Every Democrat underperformed every benchmark from 2020.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't show up. I mean, the numbers of Democrats who voted was so much lower this time.
They even underperformed from 2022.
Yes.
Which is, astounding, given the low turnout of 2022 for Democrats, and just the gravity of this election. It's one thing to be upset if you voted.
Mm-hmm.
It's another thing entirely to be upset if you just sat at home on your hands and watched the results roll in and say, "Oh, gee, this sucks."
Yeah. What do you think about I suspect we'll agree on this, but there are those who are beginning to say, oh, maybe Biden should have stayed in because of the way that Kamala underperformed. Maybe it was a bad idea to change horses midstream. My opinion on that is I think that's silly because at least with Kamala, we had a chance. Whereas, I mean, I'm not good at math, but I think I understand some of the basic tenets of probability theory. With Biden, we had zero chance. As soon as that debate happened, we had the chance of beating Trump went to zero with Biden. So at least with Kamala, we had a chance because on the night of that debate with Trump and Biden, I said it on social media too. I said it was like Biden was handing the keys to the White House in real time over to Trump and said, here, you take it in January. It was that bad. And at least when Kamala became the nominee, there was a burst of energy, there was some excitement, there was some enthusiasm and some relief. Didn't pan out, but I don't think it would have made any sense at all to stick with. I think if we had stuck with Biden, it would have been a literal landslide. I think Trump actually could have turned for maybe only one cycle, but a couple of blue states red. I think people were that.
I don't think it would have even gotten to Pennsylvania. Yeah. I don't think Pennsylvania would have been the big to-do it was.
Right.
I think the Midwest would have done it. I mean, he wouldn't have gotten to 270, obviously, but the numbers would have been just so harrowing.
Yeah.
And just devastating.
Yeah.
To the party.
Yeah, it would have been much worse.
No, I personally think Joe Biden should have been forced out right after he said, I'm rerunning again. Someone should have taken him into a room, given him a nice little pudding cup, sat him down with some popsicle sticks and some glue, and said, now, Joe, we're going to have craft time, and you're going to sit here, and we're going to talk about this. See, here's what you think the world is. And I would have shown him a picture of the Teletubbies dancing under a rainbow. And then I would have then showed him a very scary movie and been like, this is what the world really is, Joe. And I'm coming off as a complete insufferable individual right now. But that's the reality.
This is the right show for it. Don't worry about it.
They should have forced him out. They should have been like, look, you can stay president. That is fine. But 2024 is off the table for you. I think had they done that.
Well, it's basically what happened, though, isn't it? I mean, it took a little while, but.
But they did it with so little time. I mean, it was. Everyone's like, well, Kamala Harris didn't do Joe Rogan. When did she have the time?
She should have, in my opinion.
She should have. I think a graver mistake for her was not courting RFK.
Ooh, I don't know. That's a third rail.
Third rail or not, I think it helped Trump.
Do you think so? I
think it did.
About that, I don't think it was a factor. I don't think it was a factor.
I don't think it's as big of a factor as The View was. I don't think it was as big of a factor as Kamala not embracing the youth movement by doing the Joe Rogan podcast. She was actually invited by Barstool Sports to do a podcast and flat out turned them down. She didn't even give them the Joe Rogan offer of you can travel to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
But Trump embraced Joe Rogan, Barstool, Theo Vaughn.
The bro culture.
And it works. And bro culture, and Matt, I actually think he'll agree with me. bro culture doesn't show up to the polls. They just don't. But
I don't know. I think they did this time.
that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
They did this time
Yeah.
because they had a bro that they could go with. Look at the guys Donald Trump brought on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Dana bleeping White.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Dana White to death, and I think he is one of the greatest pro sports directors out there.
Mhm.
What he did to bring sports back during the pandemic, he deserves an award for, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about the guy. I have some ambivalence about him. There's some things about him that really bother me. But I get what you're saying. And I don't hold it against him that he loves Trump. I get it in the case of Dana White, because when UFC was Trump gave in Vegas gave UFC a venue
Trump Plaza in New Jersey as well.
Oh, New Jersey. That's what I'm thinking. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm getting mixed up. But yeah, so yeah, Trump really helped UFC out early when they were having trouble booking at venues. So I get it. You know, that's a loyalty. Hey, look, if Donald Trump helped me with my business in some way, I might feel the same.
Saved you from bankruptcy. Let's put this in perspective.
Yeah.
People want to sit here and go after Dana White for being. You can go after Dana White for whatever you want. Believe me, he gives people ammunition every day.
Yeah, the video of him slapping his wife, it doesn't sit well with me, but that's a big thing.
Yeah, my thing. My thing with that was that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another day, I'm sure.
But yeah, personal feelings notwithstanding, Dana White is like the chief bro. You want it's Dana White.
Well, would it be him or Portnoy? Portnoy might be the chief bro. Actually,
no, I gotta go with Dana because Dana lives that bro lifestyle. He lives in a mansion in Las Vegas. He drives a 6-figure car to his office every day. The man doesn't even have to work anymore.
Oh, no.
He has more money than what he knows what to do with after Endeavor bought him out.
Oh, yeah.
He works because he genuinely loves what he does.
Yeah.
So, he is one of the hardest working men in professional sports. So all of that notwithstanding, I say Dave Portnoy's a close second.
Yeah.
I think what hurts Dave Portnoy with the bros is his love of Taylor Swift.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, he's a huge Swiftie. I think that kind of takes him down a little bit. I'm a closet Swiftie. Don't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't. I admire and respect her. I don't really care about her music one way or the other.
I think she's. I look. Game respects game.
Yeah,
she is talented. And her songs are catchy. I could be throwing mail at the post office and you'll catch me singing one of her songs.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So Biden, but I think we agree. I mean, Biden obviously should not have run for a second term.
No.
My position was, well, when the debate happened, I said, okay, I said this election's over. Not foreseeing that he would get out. I thought, no, this election's already over. But I kind of thought that before. I always kind of took the Bill Maher position, because Bill Maher, way before anyone else was saying that Biden cannot beat Trump a second time, because we're watching this man get old and the president does age you. And I don't know if you did anything like this, Eric, or if anyone else listening to this might have, but I actually went back just for the hell of it. After that debate, that disastrous debate, I went back and I looked at one of the 2020 debates, Trump versus Biden. And yeah, he was much, much sharper. The deterioration was impossible to ignore. Don't get me wrong. I mean, in 2020, even, I mean, he still seemed old because he already was old, but he still seemed, and he wasn't as certainly as vibrant and dynamic as he had been at one time, even in 2020, but he still seemed pretty sharp and, and articulate and, held his own. Certainly. I had no misgivings about Biden watching those two debates in 2020, other than I thought he let Trump kind of run over him a little bit more than he should have, because Trump would often talk over him and so forth. But overall, I thought he was fine. But then, to contrast that with 2024, and it's like, no, this guy's, this is it.
But Matt, you could see it even during his presidential term.
Oh, I know. That's my point. Like, we were watching him get very old very fast. Absolutely.
I mean,
oh my God. Do you remember the moment in Vietnam? I made fun of him on my show about it when he says, so anyway, I got to go to bed, like he's like falling asleep at the podium. It's like,
he had note cards to tell him what to do at a breakfast.
Yeah.
Like I think as Americans, I do think we are compassionate people.
Yeah.
I don't think we show it, but I think we are. You don't want to sit here and be like, I don't want to be that guy that is just ragging on this dude for a obvious mental deficiency here.
I don't want to be that guy. I mean, I kind of like Joe Biden in a lot. I mean, I have a lot of criticisms of him, and I think he was very selfish. I do blame him for why we have Trump.
Oh, yeah.
But historically, I've always liked him.
I mean, yeah, he is a likable guy. He is that. I won't say he's that guy that you would want to go out and have a beer with. That's our president that was elected. That's Donald Trump. That's what Trump is. That's what Trump caters to. He wants to give off this image anyway, that I'm the guy that you would want to go to the bar and have beers with. Joe Biden is that uncle that everyone in the family loves.
Yeah.
That's just crazy and does things that are not offensive, but you're just like, oh, that's my crazy Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
And so there is that affability that Joe Biden has, and even had it during the 8 years he was VP to Obama.
Oh, yeah. And at that time, he was still very much,
Yeah.
I mean, that version of Joe Biden today, if he could have somehow reversed the aging process, which none of us can do, unfortunately. I mean, he would have won.
Yeah. And the thing is with that is, you brought up how the presidency ages you. Look at how it aged Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a toll. I mean, you look at what the short time in office did to JFK.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You look.
He was very sick too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the presidency didn't help.
Yeah.
He was just a shell of himself.
Yeah.
At the end,
even the Cuban Missile Crisis probably took a lot out of him. My God.
Oh, those 7 days. Oh my word.
13 total. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I wasn't born yet. I wouldn't want to go through that, would you? Jesus.
No.
Can you imagine?
No. Being in school and having to do a drill where you get under your desk
Fucking cover.
And not knowing if it's real or not. And then if I were growing up then and I looked back and realized duck and cover didn't work, I'd be suing some people.
Yeah.
Schools, somebody's getting a lawsuit.
But I mean, as it was, I grew up with a very unhealthy obsession is too strong a word, but an unhealthy preoccupation with the threat of nuclear war, as I know my parents remember, because I would talk about it a lot. And that is, by the way, and I haven't said this out loud to anybody yet, but I'm trying to find silver linings where we can with Trump, even though I think Trump is, he's obviously a felon and an adjudicated rapist and the most obvious con man that I think the world has ever seen, and an insurrectionist and all of that. But I'm
going to give you all of those except con man. I think Richard Nixon might be up there in the con man.
Oh, I don't know. But I know I sound like I'm setting up a bit, but I'm actually not. I'm being completely sincere when I say this, because, we touched on nuclear war a moment ago.
Right.
As much as I think it's important to stand up to Putin on Ukraine, and as much as it breaks my heart to know that in the end it will have all been for nothing, because I fully understand, and I think we all do, Trump is just going to let Putin have Ukraine. But the one silver lining to that is I will be less concerned. Not that I was particularly worried before, but I will be less concerned about the possibility going forward of a nuclear confrontation with Russia. I will worry about that less.
Yes. And with North Korea as well.
Well, I don't know. They may have fallen out of love. I know they were in love at one time, Trump and Kim Jong-un. But, absence doesn't always make the heart grow fonder. They may have drifted apart, Eric.
They're like that toxic girl you keep going back to.
I hope so. For our sake.
Yeah. But I've given my take on the Russia-Ukraine situation. It piggybacks off what you said on your show. Putin can take Ukraine, but he can't keep Ukraine.
What do you mean?
On Matt Connarton Unleashed, you said Putin has the ability to take Ukraine, but can he keep Ukraine? And
I said that? I'm smart.
Yes, you did.
Wow. I'm brilliant.
And it is brilliant because you look at I love history. You look at every evil dictatorship. How did it end? It ended because the dictator got greedy and far extended his resources.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people rebel against him, and he has no resources to defend himself from the people because all of his resources are everywhere he wants to take over. So I say let Putin have Ukraine. Let him go. Have fun. Sorry. Yes, I know that's cold-hearted. Yes, I know it's callous. Yes, I know it's disgusting. But at the end of the day, it will accelerate the end of Putin that much quicker because he will exhaust every resource he has. Because if anything, every dictator has narcissism in common. And a narcissist will always rip their nose off to spite their face. They will always do it.
It does break my heart, though. But I'm trying to, but I also realize it's what's going to happen. I mean, we all know, look, when Trump goes around saying within 24 hours, I'll have that solved, we all know what it means. And Zelensky knows what it means. But
yeah, I mean, he isn't lying. It will be solved.
Yeah.
Just say it's not the solution anyone with a heart wants to see happen here.
No, I'm dreading it, actually.
I mean, you know what, Matt? Saturday Night Live has 4 years of material now.
Oh, they sure do. They sure do. And the guy who plays Trump now, I forget his name, but I love his Trump impression.
I really wanted my own selfish reason for wanting Kamala Harris to be elected. Maya Rudolph.
Oh, yeah.
And her Kamala Harris was great.
Yes.
And they could do Kamala Harris on Family Feud with Kenan Thompson as Steve Harvey every week, and I would tune in.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, about Biden, I've heard a few people say, and I don't think this is right, but maybe I'm forgetting something. And you tell me if you remember something I'm forgetting. I've heard a number of people complain that Biden promised that he would be a one-term president. I have no recollection of Biden making that promise. I remember him sort of implying it, and when he ran, and I remember thinking he's implying it, but not saying it explicitly, but implicitly to try to get people to think that without making a commitment. But I don't think he ever actually said, I'm only going to serve one term. But do you remember something that I'm forgetting?
I agree with you in the sense that it was heavily implied that he would be a one-term president. I don't think it was ever implicitly said,
right?
But it was heavily implied. And look, we're at a stage where implication, if you don't meet the implication, you lied. And unfortunately, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
People can, and I'm sure I'm going to get razzed for saying it, but hey, that's the way it is. If you imply something and don't follow through, you're considered a liar. That's brass tacks. That's it.
Now, I want to get your opinion on something else too, because I said something to Jenny. She disagreed with me on this, but I'm curious to hear if you
I'm not going to disagree with Jenny. She scares me.
Nobody is saying this. Nobody's talking about this, but I really believe, and I think the young people might call this a hot take. I believe that we also need to, as we're thinking about how we're going to handle the Trump presidency, we also will need to start thinking about, in relatively short order, which might, by short order, it might be a couple of years, but what I feel is the inevitability of the J.D. Vance presidency. Because I do not believe.
Lock up the couches. Hide the couches.
I do not believe that Trump is going to serve until he's 82 years old. I do firmly believe that J.D. Vance, for that reason, will be the 47th president of the United States. I think it is unavoidable. And I think J.D. Vance knows it too. But nobody else is saying this. And I'm actually surprised, because I don't think Trump's going to serve until he's 82. I'm not saying he's going to die in office necessarily, but once he's in the clear, he's fired Jack Smith, he's done this, he's done that, maybe done some autocratic things. Then he just wants to play some golf and says, okay, I'm going to ride off into the sunset and go play golf. And then it'll be President Vance. I really do believe that's going to happen.
I could actually see it. And I actually thought about that, Matt.
Oh, good. I'm not the only one.
We're on the same page. I could see Trump doing it.
Yeah.
After the midterm.
Yes, exactly.
Because he's going to be, for all intents and purposes, a lame duck president.
Right.
At these midterms. Look, I do think there is some of Project 2025 that is a complete and utter fear mongering. Yeah. I think they have these pipe dreams of what they're going to be able to do. Donald Trump will not get a third term. I don't care what hyperbolic view of apocalyptic America you have.
Right.
It will not happen.
No.
So he literally has 2 years to do everything he wants to do.
Right.
And, people sit here and say, well, he has the Senate. And he does.
He may have the House. He
does have the House. It was announced. Yep.
Well, I missed it. Okay.
House, but Republicans control the House.
Okay.
But I do believe there are still some, they don't have as loud of a voice, but there are still some that have that voice of dissidence towards Donald Trump in the Republican Party. And to do the extreme things that people think he's going to do, he would need every Republican on board. And he isn't going to get that. He just isn't. I do think there are some scary things, but I'm saying this to say him trying to become a czar, him saying, I will be the last president you ever vote for.
Yeah.
No, that's not going to happen. He literally right now is a 2-year president because he's a lame duck. He's going to get whitewashed.
There's gonna be a blue wave in 26 because that's always what happens. When one party has complete control, the midterms are usually brutal on the party that has control.
Yep.
So you're right. He has 2 years.
And I did say that in 2020 to my cousin. I told him, I'm like, Biden only has 2 years. I'm like, because I believe Democrats had control of the Senate and a majority of the House. They didn't have House control. They had a majority. Always a
very, very thin margin. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, look, it's going to be, he has 2 years. And that's the thing is he really only has 2 years. I could see him getting his head kicked in. And I could see the Democrats controlling the House, controlling the Senate. I think there is going to be a Democratic youth movement because there has to be at this point.
Yeah, no
That's
kidding.
the only way you're going to reinvigorate this base.
Yeah, I agree.
And I could see one of these young gun Democrats stepping up and saying, this happened during these 2 years. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. We could roll these into a new charges. And I could just see Donald Trump pulling a Nixon saying, okay, you got me. I'm going to walk off.
Yeah. Once he's in the clear, because I don't want to say the whole reason, but I do believe the number one priority for him for running for president this time was to stay out of prison. Now he can breathe a sigh of relief. He can do what he wants to do for the next 2 years and then go. There's also a possibility. All these people who are very concerned about Trump ending democracy, and people get a little hyperbolic about it, but I do understand. But I understand the concerns. I really do. I don't take any of it lightly, but it's also possible that now that he can breathe a sigh of relief, he might just kind of lay back and not even attempt to do a lot of what's people worry about him doing, because he might just want to play golf because, he is almost 80 years old. And, these appetites for power and all of it might start to diminish because, you get to that age and, the testosterone levels start to go down. And I mean, there's a reason why people, at a certain age, they have less energy, they have less ambition. There's biological changes. He's already out of shape. He's clearly, I know he always gets a doctor to say that he's the healthiest man in the history of the galaxy, but in reality, he clearly is not.
I don't know if you listened to his victory speech, Matt.
I didn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it, which is unlike me, but
I was at work, so I could.
Yeah.
I was working. So I actually had YouTube TV on my phone, and I was listening to it. He sounded wore out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that the race is going to be more consequence than the victory.
Yeah.
I think knowing what I know about Donald Trump, and I know I'm not buddies with the guy. I don't even know him.
Right.
I've been in the same room as him once.
Jenny and I met him back when he ran in 2016. Yeah. Well, in 2015, we met him at a couple of events here in New Hampshire. Yeah.
But what I've read about him, and some people are going to say, yeah, you're right, and think that I'm ripping on him when I'm really trying not to.
Yeah.
He does have a major ego. And
of course.
The thing with that is I think for him, this is a giant FU to everyone that wanted put him in prison, the court cases,
Mhm.
all of that. Everyone who said he was done politically after the insurrection attempt, after the coup at the Capitol. We should trademark that.
Yes.
Yeah, after all of that, for him to come back, if you're a Republican, this is a Disney-esque comeback story.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And look, and people can sit here and say it's not a comeback story. He's evil. He's this, that. You say what you want, but I think that's really why he did it, is just to prove he could do it.
Oh, I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. I think that's a big part of it.
And I don't think there's a line in my favorite movie, Citizen Kane. At the very beginning in the News on the March. It's never said, but it's been so many times used. It's on one of the text screens.
Yeah.
It says, "If for nothing else, I am an American." Charles Foster Kane. I think no truer words apply to someone than Donald Trump. If for nothing else, he is an American. And that cannot be argued. The man loves America. I think he loves his version of America.
Yeah. Yeah.
He loves his version of America. And he likes to portray this patriotic person. I guarantee you, if there's dissidence within his MAGA group, his MAGA base, on something that's proposed, it ain't gonna happen. And there is a lot of these issues people have brought up that do hurt the MAGA base. You can say the MAGA base is hateful and all the other words I've used.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say everyone in their family has at least one person that is LGBTQI. Every person has in their family someone that's developmentally disabled. Odds favor it.
Or you know someone, or you're close to someone.
Or you're close to someone.
Yeah, of course.
I honestly, and I know some staunch MAGA Republicans. Very staunch. I would have a hard time believing that they would stand idly by as Donald Trump, some of them, would try to eviscerate the rights of people because they are LGBTQI. I don't see that. I get the fear because the Heritage Group is very homophobic. Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah.
I get the fear, but there's nothing left to fear but fear itself. I don't see him doing that for the reason that I stated. Everyone has a tie to that community or cares about someone in that community. And if you can look at someone you love and be like, your rights are going to be stripped away, but go get them, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Then you might be just as deplorable as Joe Biden said you were. And I can't believe that. I cannot. And I will not subscribe to that theory.
You reminded me, the reason I was laughing a moment ago, you reminded me of something that I think this is, unless I'm imagining it, maybe it's my own personal Mandela effect. But no, this happened. I don't know if you might remember this, Eric, but people have forgotten about this. Back in 2015, when Trump first announced he was running, he did an event that I think was hosted by GLAAD or one
He
of the
did.
groups with the rainbows and he said at the podium, he said, "I'll be the best friend." The LGBTQ, however he put it, I'm sure he mangled it somehow, but I'll be the best friend you've ever had. And then I think somebody got in his ear and said, hey man, you're running for the Republican nomination here. You can't do this. And because that was the last time, like after that event, we never saw any of that again. But
we also, on the flip side of that, we didn't see him do anything to hurt them or strip away their rights. Unless I'm forgetting something, and I could be.
There was, I remember this. It was on a Friday afternoon, which was strange, but I remember it was a Friday talking about it on the show. He announced on Twitter that they were going to get all the trans people out of the military or something, something to that effect. Now, I don't know I don't think that policy ever got fully implemented though, because I cannot remember his name now. One of the Joint Chiefs, whoever was in charge of implementing that, I can picture him, but his name escapes me now. But he was slow walking that, and it was obvious that he was doing it. And I think he got away with it because I don't think the policy was ever implemented. But yeah, he made it. Trump out of nowhere one day. He didn't even talk to them. He just made this announcement on Twitter that we're gonna kick out all the trans people. But I don't think it ever actually happened. But yeah. He tried to do something to slap at them. That's the only thing I can remember, though.
I mean, and look, that's wrong. Again. Now, keep in mind that we have seen, and I'm just reading this on the ACLU website.
Yeah.
There have been some Trump-appointed judges rule in favor of LGBTQ rights in the lower courts.
Oh, yeah.
Justice Neil Gorsuch, who authored Bostock versus Clayton County, 590 U.S. 644 in 2020, our client's case establishing that Title VII, a federal law prohibiting sex discrimination in employment, protects against discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. So even if he starts, I find it hard to believe that there's a big deal being made about him appointing all these Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, he's about to get even more.
But at the end of the day, the Supreme Court they are not beholden to any politician.
Right.
They are beholden to the law.
Even that.
What does the law say? I might be a hopeless romantic in this sense, but I still have hope in the Supreme Court.
I don't. Not anymore. A couple of years ago, I might have, but I've lost all hope in the Supreme Court. I have.
I can't go that far yet. I still like to believe that there's good in people. And
sure, but
look, you can disagree all you want with the LGBTQ community. You really can. But I think at the end of the day, let people live their lives the way they want to live them.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
There are things that I disagree with, that I personally have an issue with.
Sure.
But if there's dudes that want to dress up as women, you keep it out of public schools, I'm fine with it. I don't believe in the drag queen story times libraries we're having. I think if parents want to say no, that is their right to say no.
Well, yeah, but no one's forcing parents to bring their kids to it.
Right. I think that's, once again, one of those conversations for another day.
Yeah. We can, that would be an interesting thing to get into, but yeah.
But yeah, I feel that some of this, and yes, Project 2025 is some scary stuff. The stuff that scares me is the stuff going into government surveillance, going into stuff regarding women's rights, going into those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as worried about LGBTQ discrimination in this administration as I am about those other things. Because as it is now, people are going to think what they're going to think.
Yeah, I think Trump is far more dangerous to immigrants, for example, as we alluded to earlier, than he is to, because I don't think Trump is, and again, I remember that one event that he did that was very pro LGBTQ. I don't think Trump is necessarily anti-gay or anything like that, or even anti-trans.
I guarantee
he feeds into some of the rhetoric, though. But
well, of course, because that's his base.
But I don't think Trump himself actually believes that, you send your kid to public school and they come home a different gender, but he'll say that stuff because he knows his base wants to hear it.
Well, of course. Look, that's politics. That's politics.
But it's gone to such an extreme, though, that where they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, and then that becomes just something people repeat.
It's okay, believe. Rocky. They're not really doing that.
Yeah, we're not going to eat Rocky.
He was dead asleep and he heard eat dogs and he perked up like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no. Besides, Rocky would just be a ton of fatty tissue. He's quite overweight and lazy. So he wouldn't be appetizing. Yeah. I don't think.
But I am more worried about immigrants, and Trump wants to end birthright citizenship. That to me is crazy stuff. Like, what are we doing here? And he's got Stephen Miller, who's back. Stephen Miller, who looks like a James Bond villain, although far more evil than probably any James Bond villain.
I worry about tonight, all that. He did announce who one of his Joint Chief of Staffs would be.
Oh, he did? I missed that.
I'm looking it up right now.
He's not going to have very many people from his first administration because most of those people hate him now.
Yes, rightfully so. It is rumored to be the guy who went toe to toe with AOC on immigration.
Oh, I don't remember.
The one that said, if I arrest someone for drunk driving and they have a kid in the car, the parent is separated from their kid as well. Are you going to argue that?
See, I don't remember who that is.
But
I'm picturing a 60-year-old man with gray hair, but I think that's probably
very husky.
Yeah, a husky 60-year-old man with gray hair. It just seems like that would fit the bill. But yeah, I can't remember who that is.
General Milley.
Wait, Mark Milley? Mark Milley's coming back? No, it can't be.
No. It's not Mark Milley.
Okay, I was going to say, because I think he's one of the people that.
Yes, he is. He actually said in Bob Woodward's book, Trump is the closest thing to fascist we will ever see.
Yeah. So we won't be seeing General Milley.
We could.
That's pretty unlikely.
Donald Trump is a benevolent man, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
Very forgiving.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Holds no grudges.
Sure.
Yeah. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Yeah.
No. Marco Rubio eyed for Secretary of State.
Yeah, I saw that. I can see that happening. Little Marco.
He asked. I remember the happy days when Marco Rubio did not like Trump.
I never thought I would pine for the days of the Republican Party of the George W. Bush administration, but here we are.
Papa Ted, please come back. We want Ted. Mitt, bring the binders. Bring the binders of women, Mitt.
Yeah. I miss us. I mean, he's still in the Senate, obviously, but I miss the, I voted for Obama, but
Trump asks Representative Mike Waltz to be his national security advisor.
I don't know who that is. Mike Waltz? I don't even know who that
Waltz
is.
is a former Green Beret in China Hawk who emerged as a key surrogate for Trump, criticizing the Biden-Harris foreign policy record during the campaign.
Oh,
He sits on the Intelligence, Armed Services, and Foreign Affairs Committee.
wow. It sounds like I should be familiar with him, but honestly,
Here's a key thing about him, Matt. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
He has supported aid to Ukraine in the past, but has demanded conditions, including increased spending from European allies, additional oversight of funds, and pairing the aid with border security measures.
yeah, that's a poison pill. In other words, well, we already know where that's headed. Yeah.
I mean, he wanted to provide Ukraine with MiG fighter planes. I mean, who's going to fly them? But he wanted to provide them.
Yeah, I know. No, that's over for Ukraine, unfortunately. It's inevitable.
He did serve. Now, this should give everyone a ray of hope.
Okay.
You remember how you said you wanted to go back to the George W. Bush administration?
I didn't say I wanted to go back, but
you did. You did.
I prefer that version.
For sake of argument, we're going to say you did.
Okay.
Waltz served in various national security policy roles in the Bush administration, including Pentagon and White House.
See, that doesn't give me a ray of hope, though, because the Bush administration's foreign policy was so bad. But the good thing about the Bush administration is if he had lost to John Kerry in 2004, I don't think there would have been an insurrection. So, that's what I mean.
On the Capitol, Matt.
The
coup on the Capitol. Yes. Oh, Tom Homan.
That's a very familiar name.
He is Trump's newly announced border czar.
Okay.
He is the one who went face to face with AOC compared immigrants to drunk drivers, essentially.
Yeah. We don't need a border czar. We need an immigration czar. We need someone who's going to work on putting it. Well, we almost had immigration reform. And Trump said, nope, don't do that. Don't do that until I'm elected again.
Here's what he said at that hearing. Homan said he does not plan to, quote, separate women and children, but acknowledged that deporting alleged criminals would result in breaking up families. Quote, when we arrest parents here, guess what? We separate them. The illegal aliens should be no different, Homan said. Our new borders are.
My position, I know, I'm a left-leaning guy, so people probably assume I'm for open borders or whatever. No, I think we should secure our border. I also think we need to overhaul the entire immigration system. You and I talk about that a lot. Yeah, I think we're largely in agreement on that.
Immigration in this country for my entire life, and I'm 41 years old, it's been Band-Aid on a bullet hole, except the bullet hole is getting bigger.
Yeah.
We need to find a way to control it. I don't think breaking up families is the way to do it.
No, but we need to not only control it, but make it so that we can see. The problem is so many people want to control it by stopping it. They just don't want any more brown people. I mean, that's how a lot of these people think. And it's like, no, I wish the Democrats could figure out how to message this. We need these immigrants. We need them. Our economy is so screwed without them. We absolutely need these people in the country.
You know what the Democrats should have done? Hold on. I want to make sure I get the title of the movie right.
Okay. Yeah, because we need these people, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. I mean,
they should just, for one of Kamala Harris's rallies, played the movie, the mockumentary, A Day Without a Mexican.
Yes.
And that would have summed it up.
Yeah. 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 We need immigrants. We need them desperately. Our economy depends on them. But
a day without a Mexican. Yeah, I mean, that would have explained it perfectly.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man, I should have been her campaign advisor.
Well, you can't go back, unfortunately.
I couldn't have done worse. I mean,
well, no, I mean, she lost, so you're right.
I'm pretty sure I could have carried her to one swing state victory.
I don't know. We might have to talk about probability theory a little more. But
I could have carried Kamala. I could have been like, listen, I have this cute dog. We're just going to run him out on stage. Don't do anything.
Well, Eric, we've been on for a while. We should probably wrap up. I'm anxious to get the podcast up online because it's been a long time since we've been able to do this.
Absolutely.
But now that we've gotten back in the saddle, we should do it more often.
I am definitely down. I think if, this is going to sound ridiculous, but if people really think about this, to have two people that have differing views sitting down and being able to talk, that's an example of what we can do in this country.
Oh, yeah.
And if we just get rid of... if we go into it with an open mind. Now, I'm not saying you should walk into a Klan rally and say, hey, explain to me why you're right. No, not at all. Please don't do that, because if you are certain people, you might not make it out of said rally.
Yeah.
I do not advise that.
Yeah.
But what I do advise is, instead of attacking people because of how they voted, try to understand why they voted the way they voted. Try to get a gist of it. And then if you have an issue with it, fine, cool.
Yeah.
But I have heard from people who voted for Donald Trump that, you hear it and you're like, okay, that's a dumb reason. People I work with said, my 401k in the last 4 years has went down $30,000.
I don't understand that, though, with the stock market doing so well.
But I'm saying theoretically.
Yeah. Okay.
My 401k has went down X amount. I'm going to have to work this much extra to make up for that.
Yeah.
I'd planned to retire at 62. Now I have to wait till I'm 63 and a half, 64. That's why I voted the way I voted, because I want some of that capital gains back.
Yeah.
Or, someone who is in an area where immigration is just out of control, that's on a border state. We don't take border states into account enough.
I agree.
My point is, if you get 50 Donald Trump voters in a room, 45 of them are going to give you what you, at the very least, would say, I don't agree with it, but I understand it. They're not all sitting there like the people of South Park saying they took our jobs.
Right. Some of them are, though, to be fair.
Some of them are.
Some of them are.
Yes. Some of them are.
I've met some.
but I'm going to sit there and say that falls under the 5 out of the 50.
I hope so.
I think you're going to find a majority of them at least have feasible reasons why they voted the way they did. And you don't have to agree with them, but I think you would walk away saying, I get it.
Well, I also think, I don't know if I'd walk away saying I get it, but I understand what you're saying. And I also think our conversations are an example to people of how, even if you come from different places politically, like I'm kind of, I don't know, I think I'm basically center left, and you're a conservative, although I know some people think that you should be stripped.
I would probably, I like your center left. I would say I'm center right.
Center right, yeah.
Yeah.
But even though we come at politics from opposite directions, but if you listen to our conversations, we actually agree on a lot of things. There's a lot of common ground to be had there.
There is.
Yeah.
I think, again, A quote from Citizen Kane. At the end of the day, we are all one thing. We are all Americans. And we have to start looking at ourselves as such. Don't look at it as does this guy on the bus next to me kiss other guys? Does this woman next to me kiss other women? Does this guy or this woman like to dress up like the opposite sex? Or is this person wearing a face covering? Is he going to bomb my house? No, we're looking at things totally wrong there.
Yeah.
We need to look at people as people and get to know them as people. And I think if we do that, then we can see the common grounds we have. I will say, being a part of your show and listening to people chime in helped me change my perspectives on things, some of my perspectives on things.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. But I'm always going to stand up for what I believe in.
Yes. As you should, yes. And I would just add, because you were talking about like if you get on a bus and you see, if it's two women kissing, I might be kind of into that.
I've always said this. If two dudes want to hook up, sweet, more women for me. If two women want to hook up and let me watch, even better.
Common ground. We just found even more of it. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. I'm open-minded.
Yes.
I'm right there. I don't even care that they show Taylor Swift during pro football.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of football fans that do, but I'm not one of them.
I know. Yeah.
I am very much, you know what? Is what it is. It's bringing new people into football.
Oh, there you go.
So why would we even be upset about that?
Yeah, well said. Exactly. All right, Eric.
Why?
Do you have anything to plug or anything? Or
no, I am currently working through somewhat of a major injury.
Still?
In July, I suffered a lower back sprain that caused compression on my sciatic nerve.
Oh, that sucks.
So right now it's work and physical therapy, and they're looking at something you're familiar with through Jenny, nerve ablation.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, right now it's, and that tied into my voting for Kamala Harris, because working for the post office, and I'm not ashamed to say I work for the post office, I do have to add that the views and opinions I express do not reflect those of the United States Postal Service or the government.
Yeah.
I want to protect the benefits I'm getting.
Of course.
I'm getting workman's comp. My physical therapy is fully covered because the injury happened at work.
Good.
I mean,
yeah,
that includes transportation for me to get to my physical therapy. I had to vote to protect my finances.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you're going to threaten to take away those things from me, then I have to vote in the best interest of me.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I had to do. And so, that's really what's going on. I mean, it is one of the most frustrating injuries I have ever had, because you can go for days at a time and not feel anything.
Yeah.
Be totally fine. And then it hits. And it could be the littlest thing you do, pivot in a chair, or like you turn in the shower wrong, or you scrub the dishes too hard. The littlest thing can trigger it.
And that pain is awful. I had a few years ago, I had a sciatic pain, and it lasted for a couple of weeks, and then it just kind of went away on its own. Fortunately, I don't know why. I did a lot of stretching, and I think that helped it. So it wasn't like an actual injury per se. It was just something was causing my sciatic nerve to bother me. But I just remember the way that pain would radiate. It just, it was just such a drag. So I feel for you.
I mean, it is what it is. There are people who have it way worse than I do. I mean, are there nights that I have to sleep sitting up on my chase, on my sectional? Yeah. Does that suck? Yeah. But there are people in this country that don't have a chase to sleep on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There are people in a hospital that they fall asleep and they're like, is this going to be it?
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate, and that's the way I look at it. So yeah, but no, I'm definitely open to doing this more frequently. I think there's going to be a lot more to talk about.
Oh yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more to discuss. Yeah. And I think, people don't laugh at the ridiculousness of this. Use Matt and I as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But make sure you eat pineapple on pizza.
No common ground there. All right. Well, on that note, I need to go eat something delicious just to cleanse my palate.
I had a KFC. And it ain't sitting good.
Yeah, does it ever? KFC? Ooh, I can't eat that either. All right. Erich Pilcher, my favorite conservative, even if you are now more center right, but I'll still call you my favorite conservative.
Hey, I'm down with it. And if anyone has a problem with me being a conservative, send me a message. We can discuss.
I know someone who might.
Oh, well, I know someone else.
But
I know someone else who might,
I know
if he can figure out the technology of doing so.
A certain New Yorker. Yeah.
No, Section 8 housing in Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie. Yeah. He hasn't posted anything in 2 months now. Do you think he's dead?
I mean, we're going to stop there because I don't want to say something that's totally mean.
I don't want him to be dead because once he's dead, there's no more possibility of redemption.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So I thought we would hear him singing to the high praises when Trump won.
Yeah, I thought he'd post something, but he didn't. That's why I think he might. I don't know. Maybe he's infirmed.
You know what? Yeah. Hopefully, that individual is in good health. And on that note, I have to cleanse my palate.
All right, Erich. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It was good. It was fun.
All right. And thanks everyone for listening. I mean, they're not listening live, but I will post this shortly. And all right, Erich, take care. Have a good night.
You as well. Bye.
Bye-bye.
The commander to the supreme leader, Matzo